Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday. It is the start of another week. It is the start of the final week of the international break. It is wet. It is gloomy. It is grey as I look out the window outside, and I suggest not too far away down the road at London Colney. The mood is pretty similar to the weather, given the news overnight that Gabriel Martinelli is the latest Arsenal player to suffer an injury scare during the international break. So we will talk about that, of course, in the show today. Look at what they are saying in Brazil about Martinelli's calf problem that has certainly left him a doubt for their game against Peru, I think it is, in the early hours of Wednesday morning. But you would think potentially a doubt for Arsenal's trip to Bournemouth on Saturday as well. We'll go over better news from the international break, and that was a very good performance, a goal-scoring performance from Declan Rice for England as well. We'll look ahead what's to come. Today, we've got the Trossard versus Saliba derby, France versus Belgium. Fingers crossed both of those two can come through the game unscathed a little bit later on. We've got lots of questions and comments and opinions from you guys to discuss as well. But we've got to start on the news of Gabriel Martinelli, not the news I wanted to wake up to, you wanted to wake up to, certainly Mikel Arteta wanted to wake up to this morning on the Monday, that Gabriel Martinelli has suffered a bit of an injury scare. Now, this is what the CBF, the Brazilian Football Federation, have announced when it comes to Gabriel Martinelli. The statement, as part of a wider range of things that they spoke about, says player Gabriel Martinelli complained of pain in his right calf and underwent an MRI on Sunday night, which showed a small area of muscle edema in the area. The athlete continues to undergo physiotherapy treatment under the care of the Brazilian national team's medical department. So that's all we know so far. He apparently trained or tried to train yesterday and didn't get through the session and was feeling its problem in the calf. So he's had his MRI scan and sort of waiting for results. He hasn't yet, as far as we're aware, flown back or been released by Brazil to go back to Arsenal, which maybe is a good sign that it's nothing overly serious. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we might get a little bit more news out of Brazil today at some point on Gabriel Martinelli's fitness. I mean, it's the last thing that Arsenal wanted, is on the back of something happening to Bukayo Saka with England, which we still don't know the full extent of that injury issue yet. He has, of course, returned to Arsenal. Obviously, on the back of Kai Havertz, Thomas Partey, both not going on to their national teams. You would hope that was more precaution. That's certainly the messages that we got at the time, with that was more precaution than anything else. But we've got Timbers doubt, Ben White. So you just wanted to get through this international break unscathed. Mikel Arteta said it. He said he was going to be praying that it was better the international break for Arsenal than the last one, because the last one was so difficult with Calafiori's injury, Martin Odegaard's injury. But it hasn't worked out that way. It's been just as bad, really, for Arsenal, just as worrying for Arsenal fans. But we do have to say, still, we don't know the full extent of this from Gabriel Martinelli yet. It doesn't appear that it's something massively serious or massively problematic. It might end up ruling him out at the weekend. We don't know. But it is certainly a bit of a concern, no doubt about that. And it's certainly, if Bukayo Saka's out at the weekend and Gabriel Martinelli's out at the weekend, then it does leave you sort of scrambling around a little bit in terms of what exactly Arsenal are going to do. They've still got a fairly strong squad. You could play Gabriel Jesus on the right if you wanted to. You could play Raheem Sterling on the left. You could play Raheem Sterling on the right. You could play Leo Trossard on the left. I mean, all this is provided that Kai Havertz is okay as expected and can lead the line as a central striker, of course. But there are options in the squad. But it'd be a real shame for Martinelli. He just found some form, got himself a couple of goals, got himself a couple of assists, looks like a confident player again. For him to have any sort of injury layoff at this point would just come as a real blow and would kill that momentum that he's built up in the last few weeks. So fingers crossed, it's nothing too bad with Gabriel Martinelli. Like I said, maybe we'll get a little bit more news filtering out of Brazil a little bit later on today. And hopefully that news will be relatively positive. But certainly looks like he is a significant doubt for their game on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. And you would think that would certainly make him a bit of a doubt for the game against Bournemouth for the weekend. But we shall wait and see on that. Okay, better news in terms of the international break for Arsenal. It was a good performance for Declan Rice. Got himself on target in England's win against Finland. Better performance from England. Still not a fantastic performance, but a better performance, which isn't hard because the performance against Greece was such an utter car crash of a performance. But this one was better. They had a lot more structure to them. I think they looked more like a team, like a unit. Players were actually playing in their proper positions. And I thought Declan Rice had a decent game. Nice goal as well. Got himself forward late on. Ollie Watkins, obviously the architect of it with that run down the left. Declan Rice, good run into the box, which you want to see him doing, arriving a little bit late, getting on there at the near post. Nice finish for him to make it 3-0. Obviously, Finland got a goal back pretty soon after that. The final score was 3-1. But good to see Declan Rice playing well for England and getting himself on target. You hope he comes back a little bit in in decent mood after that, confident as well, because we do need Declan Rice to get back towards his best, because he's certainly not been at his best so far this season. There's no doubt about that. He's not been bad, but he's not been at his best. Pretty much every game for last season, I came out of that stadium just like, oh my God, how unbelievable is Declan Rice? Haven't had that feeling yet this season, but that's not saying he's bad. He's just not hitting the heights of last year when he was just 8 or 9 out of 10 pretty much every single week, it felt like. Now he's much more 7 out of 10 every single week. And we want him to get back to that 8 and 9. Hopefully this sort of thing will allow him to do that. So good news for him on the international front. We've got a couple of players in action later on today. Obviously, Calafiori playing for Italy against Israel. I think he played the full 90 for Italy on the international break. And then we've got Belgium against France. Leo Trossard obviously having a fantastic game for Belgium last time. They were 2-0 down to Italy, to Calafiori's Italy. And then Trossard turned the game on its head, got the assist for the first goal, got himself the equaliser for the second goal. He's going to be up against William Saliba today. Saliba expected to start for France in that game. I saw the expected 11 from L'Équipe today, and that was Saliba was at the heart of the defence. I can't remember. I think they were saying they was going to make a change at centre-back. It was Konate wasn't going to play in. Can't remember who they said was going to come in alongside Saliba in that game. But yeah, so we could have Saliba versus Trossard. Hopefully they both play well. Hopefully there's no big tackles going in from Saliba towards Trossard, and they can come through it unscathed. And then just really got Spain in action the following day on the Tuesday. So we've got Marino and Raya to get through, and then Brazil. Whether Martinelli plays or not, we'll have to wait and see. But you think Gabriel Martinelli is certainly going to play in that game. And then we can all just breathe a little bit easier. The international break will be over. The players will be back to London Colney. Fingers crossed. We can get them patched up, and we can kind of put this international break behind us all and just focus on the football, because there's some big games coming up for Arsenal. They've got a really difficult run coming up. I think 5 of the next 8 games are away from home. You've got that really brutal week of Newcastle away, Inter Milan away, Chelsea away on the horizon as well. And you want your best players available for these sort of games. Arsenal have done so well, I think, so far this season to be in the position they are in, despite the injury issues that they've had. They've dealt with them well. The squad has dealt with them well. They've ground out results. They've shown another way to play, another way to win and to pick up points. And they might well have to do that again over this next period of games, because the injuries have certainly hampered them. There's no doubt about that. And they've been unlucky. I said it the other day, didn't I? Was it yesterday's show or the day before? This myth that goes around that Arsenal have been lucky with injuries, which quite frankly is rubbish, because they haven't been lucky with injuries. They've lost some really key players at crucial times that have really harmed their chances over the last couple of seasons. But certainly the start to this season has been brutal from an injury point of view for Arsenal, and they've dealt with it really well. The squad has stood up to it really well, and they might have to do that for a few more weeks yet. Okay, moving on to some of your questions and comments now. Nostradamus has got in touch. Obviously, this was before the Martinelli injury, but I thought it'd be an interesting one to talk about nonetheless, talking about McAllister and Martinelli returning from Brazil only a few days before the weekend. Do you think we should consider starting Kivior and Trossard instead, or would this be time for Sterling, Jesus to find their form? I think Gabriel will start, whatever happens. I mean, Brazil play early hours Wednesday morning, and usually Arsenal have a jet put on that flies these players back. Sometimes they share with other Brazilian players and they come back straight away. I would suggest something like that's probably going to happen again. So they'd arrive back in England on Wednesday. Maybe they won't come into Colney then, but they'll come in on the Thursday. Obviously, they'll travel with the squad on Friday. They'll be assessed. As long as they're deemed fit, then I would fully expect Gabriel to start. Obviously, it's different with Martinelli because he's got this injury issues that they're going to have to check over, but I can't imagine he brings in Trossard. We've seen it before. Gabriel usually plays immediately after the international break. This one's going to be no different. So no, I'd be very surprised if he breaks up that centre-back partnership. Obviously, it's looking, you would expect where it's looking quite likely that Martinelli might be a real major doubt for that game at the weekend. So it's a little bit different for him. Trossard, absolutely. I mean, the Jesus one's an interesting one. Obviously, he got that start at the weekend before the international break as a striker. Didn't go very well, but he's shown he can do a very, very good job playing on the right-hand side. And if Saka is out, if he doesn't make it, Jesus, in my mind, is a very good option for that right-hand side, because then you can just keep Martinelli on the left. And so I do think that is an option. Whether he uses it or not, we'll have to wait and see. Because I prefer Sterling on the left. I know Sterling is certainly someone who can come in and can cover for Saka, but I kind of like the idea of Sterling playing on the left, and then you play Jesus or you play Martinelli on the right-hand side if you ever want to cover for Saka. But that's just my view on it. Smithy says, what are your thoughts on Max Dowman training with the first team, Charles? Well, I mean, look, he's 14-year-old kid. He's very, very young, hugely talented. So much excitement about him at Arsenal, of course. And it's very hard when you see what he's doing in the UEFA Youth League and things like that, and the records he's breaking, and the sort of just the physicality of him as such a young kid, as a 14-year-old kid. It's just mad when you look at him. He just looks the same age as people who are 18, 19. He just looks really physically capable of dealing with football at a much higher level, but he's still very, very young. So, it's good that he's been given some training sessions with the first team. And that says a lot about what Arsenal think of him, and that he's ready to be able to cope with that physically. But look, he's still very, very young. He's not going to be pushing for a first team spot anytime soon. You just got to take your time with him. He's so young. You don't want to do anything that can threaten his development or anything like that. It's tough to keep him out of the limelight because everyone knows about him already. And when he plays for the 21s, or he plays for the 18s, and he plays in the youth league and he does what he does, then it's very hard to keep him out of the limelight. But Arsenal just need to try and put him in this little bubble and let him develop, let him continue playing the way he is. Clearly, he's a hugely talented player. He's very, very exciting. And it's good that he can, at times, if they're going to dip in and play and train with the first team, especially when a lot of senior players away during international breaks and things like that, it'll be good for his development. But it's not a sign that Mikel Arteta is going to suddenly throw him in and use him anytime soon. I'd be absolutely stunned if that was the case. Aurora Freak says, I would like you to talk about Jorginho and his importance in the squad. I think his mentality will help so many young players, MLS, for example. I really hope this kind of character stays at the club. Yeah, look, I can't. You said it absolutely perfect. I mean, I have the utmost respect for Jorginho. I think he's been a brilliant, brilliant signing for Arsenal. I had my doubts when they signed him. Those doubts have long since vanished. I think he's been a brilliant piece of business. I think on the pitch, he's done very, very well. I think off the pitch, he's a huge, huge presence. On the touchline, he's a huge presence during the game. He's another arm of Mikel Arteta's coaching staff, basically behind the scenes on the training ground. He's massively respected, and he still works incredibly hard. I still think he's got lots to offer on the pitch, and really hope he stays at the club. Aurora Freak says, and absolutely, I do. I was very happy he got that extension to his contract at the end of last season, which kept him at the club. I thought it would have been a mistake if he had gone. Look, if he gets offered a really good contract elsewhere for this summer, then I'm sure he'll probably look at it for his sake of his career. I don't think he's ready to call time on his career just yet. He's probably still thinks he's got a few years left on him, certainly a couple of years left on him. I'd be surprised if Arsenal, I mean, he does have a 1-year extension in that deal, or 1-year clause to extend it in that deal. Arsenal might well look to do that in the summer. But, I think for now, he's brilliant to have around. And I think he's hugely beneficial for players like Lewis Skelly, like you said, and not just those younger players. I think even the other senior players around him can all still learn off Jorginho. He's just such a brilliant presence to have around. But I think if you're a player and you still feel like you've got a couple of years left of your career, you don't really want to just be seen as that sort of another arm of the coaching staff, basically. So it wouldn't surprise me come the summer, come the end of the season, if he gets a nice offer to go and play somewhere else, a decent contract for 2 or maybe even 3 years, then it'd be very hard for Arsenal to keep him, I would say, if he's not played many minutes, and he doesn't seem like he's playing very many minutes at the moment. But for now, he's here, delighted with that. And I still think he's got a big, big part to play at the club this season, on the pitch and off it as well. So, yeah, fantastic signing, hugely important, as you say, to the squad, and just a brilliant, brilliant person to have around. Here's one from 4JJA14. It says, will be very interesting when Marino is fully up and running, as he looks like to be the best natural fit for our left CM role. So we could go in some big games with Mikel making a decision between Partey and Rice as the DM. I think he will have that decision to make. I still think in his mind it is definitely going to be Declan Rice. I know a lot of people don't look at that and think, well, we should be playing Thomas Partey over Declan Rice if you're playing that DM role because Thomas Partey can progress the ball better than Declan Rice. I know that. I understand the argument, but I still think in my mind, Mikel Arteta doesn't pay 105 million for Declan Rice and then leave him out of the team. So if Mourinho impresses, and it's a big if, he's still got to win his place in the team. He can't just walk into it. He's going to have to show enough when he gets back from this international duty over the next period of games. When he does get some opportunities, he's going to have to show that he's good enough and that he's that he's up to speed with what Arsenal want from him. If he does that, then Mikel Arteta is going to have a decision to make, like you say. But I do think if that decision comes down to just purely being between Partey and Declan Rice, and I think Declan Rice starts pretty much every day of the week in Mikel Arteta's mind, I'd be very, very surprised if we ever see a game, unless it's just purely for being rested. I'd be very, very surprised if we see Mikel Arteta prefer Thomas Partey to Declan Rice in that 6 role. It's a big if Mourinho has established himself playing in that left CM role alongside Martin Odegaard when he returns from injury. But it's a lovely thing, sort of problem for Mikel Arteta to have, isn't it? When you've got these sort of good players and you've got, you look at Thomas Partey now, he's looking very, very fit. He's looking strong. He ended the run of games up to the international break in excellent form. I thought the best we've seen of him so far this season. That's exactly what you want. You want these competitions for places. You want people pushing each other to raise the level of the other players. It's exactly why you've built this good, strong squad together. So it's a great problem for Mikel Arteta to have, and it will present him with some difficult decisions to make. But personally, my view is that if there is just a straight decision between Partey and Rice, certainly for big games, he will play Declan Rice. I'm absolutely sure of it. But we shall wait and see on that. Thank you very much for your questions, everyone, for getting in touch. I'll be back to do it all over again tomorrow. Anything you want me to discuss in that show, you know the drill. Get down into the comments, leave your question, your opinion, your comment. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Until then, have a fantastic start to your week, everyone. Speak to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.